Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. My name is Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Cope.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy.
We're going to start with me because I am hosting, therefore I am most important. So
You
yeah,
just want to get your stuff out of the way
basically,
first.
yeah.
That's how
So since I finished my last book, I have started a new one. It's technically a novella called The Mimicking of Known Successes. It's a sci-fi mystery sapphic romance, which means it's about two ladies falling in love. It takes place in basically we've fucked up Earth in the distant past, and now we live on Jupiter for some reason. But not like
yes,
but
the
not
gas
like
planets.
on Jupiter, like on platforms like kind of above Jupiter, but still where you can be affected by like stuff. It's a weird thing, but it is kind of interesting the way things have to work in this. I don't know why they decided that, hey, we're going to go actually to Jupiter, but I think there's like a series of these books, so maybe they explain that later. And then you have people who like study what they call classics, which is like basically how Earth used to be, because they want to go back to Earth eventually. But it's by the author Malka Older. She's apparently written a whole bunch of things. Like I said, I think there's several books like following these same characters, but it's a man goes to like a remote part of the world and disappears, and they can't tell if he like jumped over the side or if he was pushed over the side or what happened. And it's about an investigator named Mossa trying to figure it out, and she has to reconnect with an old friend from university who works at university as like a old Earth researcher, Pletty. And I don't know how I feel about it, to be quite honest. It is a little dry for me. It is also doing I think the Sherlock Holmes books did this, where it was all through the sidekick's point of view. It's all through the other, not the investigator's point of view. So that's a little weird. The world is kind of interesting. Like it hasn't really grabbed me yet, and I'm almost halfway through with it.
So it is part of a book series. It's the investigations of Mossa and Pletty.
Yeah.
First one is The Mimicking of Known Successes. Second is called The Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles. Mm-hmm. And the third is called The Potency of Ungovernable Impulses.
Okay. Yeah, it's maybe by the end of it, it will come together. It was also a little bit jarring because the prologue is kind of a third-person narrator where you're kind of in Mossa's head, and then I guess the rest of the book takes place just completely first-person narration from Pletty's point of view. So you're not seeing like a lot of the from. It's weird because Pletty Mossa doesn't feel like a very interesting character from her point of view, whereas she felt more interesting in the prologue. So I don't know. It's only 200 pages, so like if I don't like it, then it's just that it's not much time, that I've wasted on it. But I'd heard good things about it. But yeah, once I finish it, I'll let everybody know my final thoughts. I also watched a movie last night because I didn't know that this was someplace on streaming where I could actually access it, and that is Late Night with the Devil. This plays
Starring Polka Dot Man.
Yeah, David Dashmalkian, who I really, really like. I think he is a great actor, and I'm glad that he is starring in something. He's starring in something rather than just being like a side character, because I think he's great in everything that he does. But it basically is like it's almost found footage where it is this final late night episode of this late night TV show from the 70s, where
It happened in Halloween, didn't it?
Yeah, it's for Halloween, and they have a possessed girl on, and shit goes sideways in very predictable ways. But yeah, it was a decent movie. It wasn't phenomenal. They call it like bonus footage, but basically like in between takes, like it goes to like black and white, and it's just like this camera that absolutely would not exist on this set, kind of following people around, so you're seeing like behind the scenes stuff, and it kind of breaks its own.
Didn't they try to establish that with like there was a documentary crew there for some reason?
All they say is at the beginning when like the narration is explaining it, the narration by Jeremy Ironside, which is interesting. Okay. It just says there's some behind the scenes footage in this too.
Okay.
But it basically like breaks the whole format of the thing, and just to show you like characters behind the scene. Which I think if they wouldn't have established this as just like a recording of the TV show, it would have been better. But it's decent. It's worth watching. David Dashmalkian is like very, very good in it. So I liked it, but I don't know if it's going to be one that I'm going to watch a whole bunch again.
I like the fake psychic, quote unquote fake.
Yeah.
That was a nice little touch in there.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Spoilers, my apologies. Not for the ending, but for something that happens.
Yeah, they have like a psychic dude on there, and he does like some cold reading stuff, and then they have a guy who is a skeptic, and he's just showing how all these things are bullshit, and then they have a psychologist with this possessed girl, and they do a demonstration of that. And yeah, shit just kind of shit goes really, really wrong. And it gets weird at the end, but I like the movie. The movie is decent. It's worth checking out. I don't know if it's worth like watching a whole bunch. But yeah, I'm just glad that that guy's got a starring role, and I hope that leads to more like meatier roles, because he's a good actor. I really like him. And then I'm still doing magic, so that's a thing.
It's gonna be with you for a bit. You just got to deal with it, man.
Yeah. One day I'll probably come to terms with it. Played some this past weekend. Was able to make a whole bunch of snakes with one deck, because I played an enchantment called Force Fruition, which whenever an opponent plays a spell, they draw 7 cards, which means that every single time they play something, pretty much I make 7 snakes.
You make a mini army.
So like 2 go-arounds, I had like 47 snakes, and
it's a lot of snakes.
Then I had an enchantment called Shared Animosity, which when each attacking creature gets +1/+0 for each that shares the same type. That shares the same, So when all of my snakes attacked and my commander attacked, because it's a snake as well, they all got 47 power added to them each. So it was fun. Nobody else liked it, but I thought it was funny. Yeah, and then I made one of the guys we were playing with mad, because I built a Niv Mizzet deck, and when he figured out that one went infinite, he wasn't very happy, and I was like, well, I won't play this again. I wasn't planning on playing this a whole bunch. I just wanted to see I just wanted to play it at least once or twice.
You curiosity them, or
it has curiosity, but it also has Ophidian Eye, and it has the creature guy who lets you do the same thing.
It's just dumb.
Yeah, it's very dumb.
I think Niv Mizzet is balanced, because I mean he costs 6 mana. 6 or 7.
6 specific mana.
Yeah.
In the upcoming standards and foundations, there's a Niv Mizzet that combos with
that lets you go infinite with that Niv Mizzet, which is very funny.
That makes like 4 Niv Mizzets now.
Yeah, there's a lot of him.
People say they're like, oh, Nicol Bolas is he's had so many different types of cards. Just one Niv Mizzet. He's been so many colors. He's done so many things. Been all over the place.
Yeah.
Are you excited about SpongeBob Magic?
It's no, not really, because like SpongeBob.
Boy,
is not
am
something-
I.
It's not something I care about. The thing about Magic is that I don't hold any like lore for Magic. Doesn't interest me all that much. There are some parts of it that I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but like it's not enough for me to like do like deep dives or anything like it was when I got like into 40K or something like that. So like none of it I hold precious. So all of these cards, like the Marvel stuff coming out, I don't give a shit about. There being Assassin's Creed stuff, I don't give a shit about. I know some people care about it, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you're bad or wrong for caring about that, because you have been this product, this property has been a part of your lives for a very long time. So you think differently about it. But I don't hold any of that. So I don't care about SpongeBob. Like I don't want to play with any of the SpongeBob stuff because it's.
I think,
but it is funny, kind of.
I think, like for me anyway, I think that at least like 90% of the people that complain about it aren't complaining about maybe SpongeBob, that it doesn't really fit within the core theme. I think a lot of it has to do with people were mad when The Walking Dead Secret Layers, that was one of the first ones that dropped.
I think that was the first one.
Yeah. They were more mad about the fact that you couldn't get the cards any other way.
Yeah. That is what sucks.
The second time people were really upset about something similar, and then the biggest third one was like the Assassin's Creed debacle, because 7 cards in a pack, and just
terrible.
all of that, because I had a rant already on the show about it. But
stuff like that is terrible,
right?
And it's like with these Marvel Secret Layers, like those should have been commander decks. Like
there's going to be a Marvel like standard legal set coming out next year, so.
But yeah, like to me, like. But it's
you piecemealed out what 5 cards, or was it 7 or 5 cards?
Well,
5. Some of them have like tokens and stuff with them. But.
Each one of they spoiled 5 different like legendaries, but each one of those is coming with 4 or 5 reprints.
Yeah,
so it's gonna have the Marvel skin on it, like they did with Captain America. He's got like a sort of fire and ice or something, and they just renamed it like, America's Shield or something.
The Shield of War and Peace.
The Shield of War and Peace. Yeah, it's War and Peace with the Shield of War and Peace.
Yeah.
But it's all got new artwork, but it's not on demand. They have a limited supply of it, and bots are going to buy it within 5 seconds, and that's why I bitched about it.
Oh yeah. Well, those are valid,
right?
And I'm not saying if you don't like it because it doesn't fit there, then sure, that's also valid as well. I don't care. Like it's not something, but I don't hold it precious.
I
so,
think
like,
people only bitch about it if they don't like the property that they're doing.
That is
because like when
100%
Fallout
true.
came out, they were like everybody was like fucking jizzing on each other.
Yeah,
like
that I think is what it is. But again, like I don't hold any of these characters or anything sacred, so it doesn't matter to me if we get like SpongeBob or anything like that. I'm not excited because like I don't care about the SpongeBob.
Right.
SpongeBob was a little bit. It came out when I was a little bit too old for me to like really connect with SpongeBob.
I think if it hit you that way, and then like I knew a lot of people that watched it because they were burnouts, but I think
it was insanely popular in the dorms at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And also, weed was insanely popular.
Syphil and Ollie was popular around college people.
Yeah,
and
and I wasn't even high for that shit.
Yeah, it made you feel like you were stoned. But I think the people that play with SpongeBob cards are going to be mostly doing it to troll.
That yes, yeah.
I see this as 2 ways. If WotC is already talking with like Nickelodeon of like, hey, let me get SpongeBob. I see this as a gateway for other similar things.
They are going to pour out
like
they are going to any property that they
the
possibly.
Last Avatar.
That would be cool.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would. It is. I want all of it.
Go ahead.
Second off, I think it is really funny if I have a deck with Optimus Prime and Frodo Baggins in Jellyfish Fields.
Yeah.
I think that is.
I know
hilarious.
that bothers some people. It doesn't bother me.
I want the Angry Beavers, and I want.
Oh, you're talking about. No, that was
No,
Oh my
Nickel-
God. Invader Zim.
Invader Zim is the one that would be really cool. I think Invader Zim, because they've already done like some really interesting stuff with, at least with Secret Layers, with the one artist, Wizard of something or another. It's like the psychedelic stuff.
Oh yeah.
The Wizard of War or Gore or something like that. Like I can't remember his name, but the dude's got some really cool artwork. But they did some reskins of some of the cards, like Acidic Slime and things like that with his artwork. It was really rad. So I'd like to see what they could do with Invader Zim. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, it's there's some stuff like that I'm interested in, but like that's not something that I'm super interested in. I'm not even like really caring too much about like sets that come out, like Foundations. Like I really don't like. I'm looking at some of the stuff and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's more like I don't know. Like I just I don't know.
I wasn't like, I typically, it goes set to set. Like sometimes like I'll be like, ooh, like when Bloomburrow came out, I was talking about it a lot because the theme was really different than anything.
Well, yeah, it's more about what the theme of the set is. And
Right.
This next one is just like not really a theme, more of like a core set type thing. So it's like
it's very much like that, but there is some cool stuff coming out for it. And I
saw a couple of cool things.
I wasn't excited about it because that's the most boring ass fucking name you could use.
Yeah. So they're coming out with like a jumpstart set with Foundations.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And there's one guy in there that Bianca really wants me to make. Her
There was
deck of.
an alternate card for, I can't remember what the name of the card is, but it gives your character, it was a green card, gave your characters like +10 and trample. And it's like, and the altar is like giant lemurs attacking things, and I was like, that's funny. I like that. And the little flavor text was very funny. I can't remember what.
Dude,
it said.
I was watching YouTube, and like one of the funniest, because they've had a couple Magic commercials I've ever seen in recent memory, where it was a bunch of people and they were just kind of like hanging around at a family party or something like that. And then all of a sudden, like, I can't remember if it was like a dude in like a Magic Pack costume or if it was like someone dressed up as one of the characters and just walked into the room and went, let's play Foundations, and just started throwing cards everywhere at everybody. And I was like, what the fuck is this? What is happening right now?
Jesus. So yeah, what was that card that you were talking about?
Shrewfus Sprout Sire.
Oh yeah, that one actually does look interesting.
It is the goofiest looking little dude.
Yeah, that guy. I want that guy.
That guy looks like he could be a problem.
He reads, whenever a sapperling you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green sapperling creature tokens. It is going to be absurd.
Yeah, that can get out of hand quite quick.
Also, real quick, I would be amiss if I did not mention that there has been starting with Foundations, a very heavy rule change in the game.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to blocking. There's no longer like assigned damage the way it was assigned before.
Okay.
So it used to be where if I was attacking into you and you use two guys, let's just say I'm attacking with a 4/4 and you have like a 2/2 and a 3/3. And you basically layer your blockers, and then like I as the attacker, I get, I assign lethal to this guy, and then I guess the leftover damage goes to this guy or whatever. Because the way it was before is that I had to assign whatever lethal was. So in that instance, it would be 3 damage to that first creature. I would have to assign lethal to that creature before I could assign damage to the other creature. And that's not how it works anymore. And so now you block however you're going to block, and you have to use your tricks before I tell you what the damage is going to be. It's wild. It's really difficult to kind of explain in like a couple of seconds because, it's definitely something, or someone did a 30 to 1 minute breakdown of how exactly it worked.
Like if you're just like reading the rules change and someone's explaining to you, it's going to be difficult unless you have like some type of
visual representation. I had to
Yeah.
watch a video because the way it's worded is very confusing. So, and I've been playing the game for 22 years. So, but it is something it's not going to come up as often as you would think for it to matter, especially in the 4-player game that we play. But in one-on-one, it's going to matter a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, that is it for me and the Magic Corner for this episode. Jay, what you been doing?
So there's this game. It's called Star Citizen. It has been in development since rocks were used as weapons in war, and it's been crowdfunded to well over $1 bagullion. And this past week, actually, I think it was last week, but I picked up on it this week. They finally released a cinematic trailer and gameplay reveal for Squadron 42. We've had a bunch of alphas for the modules for Star Citizen come out, but this is the first time we have a committed. Okay, this is what the game is going to look like. It is a work in progress. There's a little watermark at the lower left of the things that this is a work in progress. This is not a finished deal. To me, this is not just a proof of concept, but a proof of life that this is going to happen, that this is finally going to come out. For the people who have invested that amount of money into this, particularly in the store, I won't get into the practices of selling $15,000 to $20,000 battleships to your clients to be for a game that technically is not out yet. I guess I've already described that then, but I think that's bad, but it gives me hope that they will have something to do with it. So there is something to be said there. As for the trailer, the game is gorgeous. They did a very good job with the look of the game. I like the way the light comes off of spaceships. I think everything looks very good there. My concerns is if this is still the Crytek engine, everything is a thing, and you're going to need 8 processors just to handle one ship. That's just it. So far, at least the cinematics looked good. The gameplay parts of it felt at sometimes like it was running at 30 frames per second and not 60 frames. I'm not 100% sure on that. It just sometimes it felt slower. That's a personal reference. I don't know about the tech as far as the text on that. If you want to know where a good amount of your money went to for this, Gary Oldman is in this. Gillian Anderson is also in this. In the actual like the small little trailer at the very end, Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones is also in this. Mark Hamill is in it as well. It was weird seeing them there because it was very uncanny valley. Thank you. The first thing you have is you get introduced to Henry Cavill. And Henry Cavill is a space fighter in Squadron 42, and it looks like they just stapled his head onto a thing, and it's very weird and uncanny. And I'm hearing Henry Cavill's voice, and Henry Cavill's moving, and his eyebrows are weird to me. That might just be a personal thing, but his eyebrows moving was weird. They go through the presentation is interspliced with in-game play and out-of-game play. And you play a gunner on one of the cruiser ships as you're fighting an alien race that, of course, has super weapons. Some of them just come out of fucking nowhere. They have the big Death Star laser on the main ship. It's like, okay, you're always like that. That's now like almost a thing. Not almost a thing. It is a full thing, and it is pregnant. But it fires its super weapons like, oh my, we can't, our fighters cannot withstand firepower of that magnitude, and like that doesn't happen. There were moments where Gary Oldman was like doing a half Commissioner Gordon, half Robert E. Lee, because his voice sounded Southern every so often. It was very strange. I couldn't make out that it was Gillian Anderson when I first read it, and then I looked back at the cast and say, oh, okay, now it makes perfect sense. There were okay, so there's this one moment. Squadron 42 shows up out of nowhere to hit the bad ship hard. It doesn't win the fight, but one of them's like, you have to take this staff and leave because we're gonna die. And like, or okay, and then they leave. They do the thing like they did in Night of the Creeps, where the subtitles start out in Alien. Well, it's sort of it starts out in Alien and then it turns into English. It's more like the Wing Commander movie, which was also directed by Chris Roberts because he created the Wingman video game series. So that was weird.
Yeah.
OSHA would hate these spaceships. There is so much glass facing out into space. I'm like, if they take a pebble, they're gonna die. It's just bad, and it's weird. Some of the action was weird, not in the cinema, in the actual gameplay stuff. The gameplay stuff was okay. It was weird that like you had to like exhaust almost a full clip of, actually like 2 full clips of ammo just to take out 1 foot soldier. That was kind of scary. I guess they were kind of heightening, just like, no, these guys are gonna be big and bad. But 2 things that really struck out to me: there's a cut scene that goes from Squadron 42 attacking the main ship to the interior of the alien ship. And you've been seeing these 2 basically fire the main weapon, do all these other things.
Right.
And they cut back, and this one is like standing up, and the other one just pops into existence. Like, we actually went back with me and John Sheldon. We watched it together. I was doing the frame by frame with the keyboard, and like he's literally just not there, and then the next frame he's just there. And that's no. And then finally, so you're a gunner, and the first part is like being a gunner on a bigger ship, which, okay, actually I'm cool with that. I like the idea of like, I would rather see like be in this in the cockpit of a fighter craft and see that there. But okay, let's see what it's like in this thing. And it's kind of drollish. It's like, oh, okay, like I'm just picking priority targets and shooting at them. But I mean, that's what it's going to be. And then they go to a long cinematic, and then when they come back from the cinematic, you're on the ship, and you have to abandon the ship because your ship's been fucked up. And at one point, you get blown out into space. Now it says helmet, like your helmet is cracked. It's like securing crack on helmet, and then it turns into the 0G shit from Dead Space 1, where you point yourself at a thing and you jump forward, and you're slowly running out of oxygen, and it's real cold out there. It's like, okay, and then but you finally you get through all of it, and okay, reestablishing gravity, and like you literally get to the back half of the blowed out ship because that's where the only life pods are still left. Yeah, it's weird. I think the story was a little muddled sometimes, but the part that really I had to stop and I'm like, okay, I can have my fucking stroke now. So it goes from first person view to third person. Your character has a helmet, and the visor that was over your eye, like the helmet part, it only covers your eyes. I didn't see where the rest of the helmet like came up. Your face and neck were exposed to space.
Oh.
And I was like, wait a minute. That's not Princess Leia. What is going on here? So I have questions. I think they wanted to sacrifice logic for emotion and like tenseness. They actually have a beat, like one of the things on your HUD is a BPM, like and it's tracking your heartbeats, and like, okay, this is kind of cool. The ones I care about are health and oxygen, particularly when I'm out in space,
right,
without a mask.
Yeah.
So
because your skin needs to breathe for one.
Again, I think graphically it is very well done. I have concerns on story, and I have concerns on the uncanny valley with all of these very famous people, and some of them sometimes they're dead-eyed, sometimes they're mannequin, and it's just it's weird to me.
When you mentioned the Flux and Gary Oldman's voice acting, it reminded me of the character he played in Tiptoes.
Oh,
Ethan, look up Tiptoes.
Jesus.
Gary Oldman. Do it.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Jesus.
Go to Jody, and then we're gonna hear a scream.
Jody, what have you been up to?
Oh, a couple of things. So, I finished watching 2 movies out of a 4-movie series made in the early 70s.
I haven't searched anything. Is this a 2003 film movie?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's a film movie.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I
You don't have the
Well, you don't have
contract,
to watch it.
The contract from last week no
you
longer
don't have to
applies.
watch it.
Just look it up.
Okay, we're gonna let him do this before I go into what I'm
okay.
doing.
Okay. I mean, it has Gary Oldman.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay, what
Tiptoes.
exactly am I like finding the plot to this?
It would be
you
really
wanna
good for you to
click
look
image.
up. Click an image and try to find one of Gary Oldman standing next to another character.
Guy. Yeah.
Okay.
You had to breathe real quick, didn't you? You had to remember to
You
breathe.
didn't expect to see that.
I think I understand.
That's Dracula you're looking at.
For nobody, for somebody who's listening to this,
And,
is like,
and
what the
Winston
fuck
Churchill as
Yeah.
well.
what the fuck are we talking about? Tiptoes is a movie where Gary Oldman plays a little person. Now you might ask yourself, Gary Oldman's not a little person. Why is he playing a little person? How did he play a little person? He just stood on his knees. He just stood on his knees the whole time. They didn't change his proportions or anything else in any way.
Long waist, short legs.
He's just you know, he's on his knees the entire
It
time.
has Peter Dinklage in it.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yep, he could have been the star,
Yeah.
but this is before Game of Thrones.
Yeah, this is before he really
took off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched The Ghost Galleon and Night of the Seagulls, which are part of the...
Hey, I feel necessary.
Sure.
Carol falls in love with Stephen, not knowing much about him. When Carol finds herself pregnant, it forces Stephen to expose a secret. Stephen happens to be the only average-sized person in a family of dwarfs, including his twin brother Rolf. First off, and I want to stress this, it should have been little people, but 42% liked this movie. I'm pretty sure that 42% was ironic.
Yeah. Had to be.
Starring Gary Oldman, Matthew McConaughey, Kate Beckinsale. There is... I remember because I watched it because, of course.
Same.
But there is a scene where I believe Matthew McConaughey and Kate Beckinsale are in bed together, and they're doing pillow talk, and he talks about like my friends and I used to like jack off in the woods. It's like, oh, that's so cute, and like what? What? Oh, yeah. So yeah, there was that. There you go. So Brady died, and so Jody, what have you been up to?
Back to what I've been up to. So there's a series of films that were made in Spain in the early 70s. The first one is Tombs of the Blind Dead. The second one is Return of the Blind Dead. The third one is The Ghost Galleon, and the fourth one is Night of the Seagulls. And I always wanted to watch the other two, the last two, because I'd never seen them. I thought I'd never seen them. I'd actually seen the third movie, but I'll get to that in a second. And I was like, man, Night of the Seagulls, like, why is this fourth movie called Night of the Seagulls? And apparently there's a ritual in this last movie where they have to sacrifice a girl every night set for 7 days, and this happens like every 100 years or something like that, to appease the undead Knights Templar, who are now skeleton zombies who will ransack the town if they don't do so. And apparently the girls' souls become seagulls later. I don't know. That's what was explained in the movie. It was very confusing.
I know I'm confused.
Yeah, you should be. So I was watching Ghost Galleon, and I remember seeing this, and then I think back to when I was younger, and they had showed this movie on the USA Network in the mid '80s under Commander USA, which was a horror movie host. Both of the movies are actually really. The first two are good. Tombs of Blind Dead and Return are both really good Spanish horror movies. The last two are awful.
Was it a change in like production companies, directors, or
No, it was the same guy The same guy directed and wrote all four.
Okay.
I think he just gave up because
was it more gave up, or was it more I ran out of ideas, but I feel like I have ideas?
I think it was more along the lines of I think I ran out of. They ran out of ideas after the second movie, because that second movie was basically like the first movie, but way better. Just like Evil Dead. Well, I mean, Evil Dead 1 holds up on its own, but the first Blind Dead movie is really good. The second one knocks it out of the park, and then it takes like a hard pivot, Because in the first movie, they explained the backstory, what's up with these Knights Templar. This is like back in the late 60s, early 70s, where that was still like kind of a mysterious thing, and people didn't, your average person didn't know there was like multiple crusades and there was multiple knights of different orders and things like that. There was an order called Knights of the Hospital or some shit. That's where we get hospitals. So a lot of them were good, but there was always a mystique for a long time about Knights Templar. These Knights Templar in this movie worship the devil. You see, what happened was after the Crusades, they were rejected by the Vatican. Or whatever would become the Vatican. They were rejected by the Pope because they were overly anxious to murder and slay during all the sieges that happened during the Crusades that didn't fail, which was I think one. So anyway, this movie, they worship the devil and they're sacrificing virgins and all that stuff in the first part of the movie. And then they get murdered by like another order of knights or whatever. And then they come back later for their vengeance. Wait, what? Their vengeance? They don't deserve to come back for vengeance. That's another weird thing about this movie series. But it's Spanish in the early 70s, so you kind of have to give them a lot of leeway. But the first two movies are great. The second one's like they're having a party, and then all of a sudden these ghost fucking skeletons show up, and they're like, "Oh man, these
ghost skeletons."
Yeah, they're like ghostly skeletons. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I would hate to meet the ghost of a skeleton, and I would be terror.
And they're the slowest zombies, and that was like a problem for the zombies in the first movie because people could just like eventually get away from them. Mm-hmm. But in the second movie, they got smart. They got zombie horses.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to run away from them when they got zombie horses. Mm-hmm. The third movie is like you already know you're in a bad situation if you're watching one of these movies when it starts like this. All right, we're at a model agency. You're like, oh man. And this girl walks in and she's like worried about her friend. Like, where's Darla at? And this smarmy guy is like, oh, she's out in the middle of the ocean. We're doing a publicity stunt. For who? I don't fucking know, because just two models in the middle of the water, just chilling in the fucking ocean for no reason. And then all of a sudden the ghost galleon shows up and they get on it, because why wouldn't you? I mean, they're tired of being in this boat this whole time for no reason.
Is ghost galleon Spanish for bang bus? I'm just curious.
Well, they definitely got boned.
Oh, so gross.
Thanks, you handed that one to me. But then, of course, the girls are missing, so the talent agency's got to go find them because they might be liable for putting them out in the middle of the water for no reason. And so they send like 4 people go back out to the water to find the girls. And it's a very slow and painful hour and a half because there's a lot of nothing happening, a lot of creaking doors. And then anytime one of the ghost / zombie Knight Templar guys show up, you see like a door open slowly and a little skeleton hand slowly pops out, and then like 15 minutes later somebody dies. That happens a couple times, and then that movie just ends. And then Night of the Seagulls is a little bit better because they're not on a ship this whole time. But I did that, so that was something I did. And then I watched a good movie. I watched MaXXXine, which I really enjoyed a lot. I forgot I was watching a movie. I was so invested. And then I also forgot that it wasn't an 80s movie because of how well they did it. Mia Goth is just an amazing actress. You follow the story of Maxine Minks from X. She's trying to go outside of porn and be a star outside of porn, because there were a couple of porn stars that did do that in the early mid 80s or whatnot, because there was a really weird time in the 70s where porn wasn't like looked at as like taboo or filth or whatever. It was just like the next evolution in movies. because the first ones that started it were not just like blatant pornography. They were like stories that would show intercourse, like Devil and Miss Jones and things like that. Whether the stories are good is besides the point. Debbie does now, but you know, the movie's about her trying to like break out or whatever, and then there's like the real serial killer, the Night Stalker, is running around while other people are also doing the murders on top of that, and it's got a really good story to it. I like the plot. I liked all the character work. I thought it was done really well. The only thing that took me out of the movie, as far as me like being in like 100% invested and believing this was an 80s movie, was at the end of the movie. You know, that scene.
Yeah.
When that happened, I'm like, oh, okay, we're back to, all right, this is a grindhouse scene. You know, or just like shotgun time. Yeah. But I still liked it. No, don't get me wrong, I liked it. And the ending was kind of a little weird.
Yeah. A lot. The consensus that I've seen is that like this is the one people like the least. In fact, this is the one where people say it's a bad movie mostly. And it is mostly that it kind of falls apart at the end, and it's just because it gets a little weird. I don't think that it falls apart personally, but you know, whatever. But yeah, it does get weird at the end.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely a choice. It kind of reminded me of Pearl, but in the opposite way, where they have the shot zooming in on that one thing. I'm not going to say, but there's obviously no emotion there. Yeah, and you just get that shot, and then you know that's pretty much it. You know, and then there's a interview with like a sort of Phil Donahue kind of situation. Which is like an old TV show back in the day. But I liked it. I thought it was good, but I liked that kind of shit. Like it felt very grindhouse to me. Felt very 80s. They got like all of the stereotype stuff right on every like they nailed the head on pretty much everything, with one exception. Well, maybe not even that. Like I would assume they probably did have video stores like that in the mid 80s, because video took a lot longer to break out. VHS took a lot longer to break out than people understand or remember, unless you were there. Yeah. But again, no, it was fantastic. I enjoyed it. I love the color saturation that they used on it was really well done, and the lighting and everything like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I've been playing Vampire Survivor still, unlocking stuff. I got to unlock Limit Break, which pushes you even further past when you evolve your weapons. And I was playing as Death on one of the stages. It's one of the more difficult stages. With inverse mode, which makes the enemies harder and they come faster and stronger. And to level up, I took on a curse so that they came even more faster and stronger. So I would try and get more XP to level up, and it's just like an evolving, Mobius strip of experiences there. But that's me. That's all I've been up to, really.
All right. I guess that leaves Ethan. What have you been doing?
Leaves me. Honestly, nothing as much as y'all have been doing. Just playing some more Legend of Zelda. I finished the mountaintop temple area ish, and it got to the point where there is now an imposter me that I have to. I'm assuming is gonna be like the end game contents. So going through that. And me and Bianca, we've finished booking our honeymoon getaway for after the wedding.
Nice.
We're going to Universal Studios.
Oh, nice.
I always have a preference over Universal than Disney. It's just, to me, it seems more enjoyable, more memorable a little bit.
Yeah. I haven't been to either in a very long time, so I can't. But there's a lot of things that the Disney parks have done lately, because I watch a lot of for some reason I watch a lot of YouTube theme park stuff. So
I've seen a few.
There's been some things that that Disney have done that hasn't been great. But yeah,
I have so the only time I've ever been to Disney, it was kind of like it was a summer vacation with me and my siblings.
Yeah.
When my father was working in Florida, we get to Orlando, and the drive on the way, because we were only going for one day.
Oh Jesus!
Wow.
Because we were already doing a lot of other
Doing
things.
other
Okay.
things?
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so on the car ride, my dad gave us the option. Okay, we're only gonna have enough time to go to one park. I want the three of y'all to decide where we're gonna go. Me and my brother, we wanted to go to Animal Kingdom because they have the zoo, they have other things, they have the Lion King stuff, they have Rafiki that I wanted to meet. My sister was very adamant on going to Magic Kingdom.
Of course she was.
We went to Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
I mean, I still enjoyed it, but I would have rather gone to Animal Kingdom.
Of course.
None of y'all said Epcot shows your age when you just cited that.
Well, I can imagine because we know animals are real and we know magic isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I want to see Captain EO.
I don't get that reference.
It's from mid '80s.
And Michael Jackson.
It was a film they played in Epcot. It was on the big ass fucking screen before IMAX existed.
Oh yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But
Not a good movie.
so learning from that mistake, we got the pass where we go to all the parks at any time for
Right.
an entire week.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be pretty excited about that. And that's me.
Jay, is there any feedback?
We have 2 feedbacks this
Oh,
week. They're-
wow.
We've
Whoa.
planted the feedback fields and they're growing. Very quick one, once again, from our friend and fellow podcaster, Jarrett Taylor over at Bearded Drums. We have successfully talked him into Age of Sigmar.
Sweet.
And he has bought a spearhead of Ogre Maw tribes
Yeah.
and
The big fat fuckers.
big fat belly busting motherfuckers, and that has the cannon in it, so that's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to him to paint that up and take a look at it. I actually gave him my my painting recipe for flesh tone, which hopefully he will either take a wholeheartedly or even adapt and make it even better. So we will see on that one.
Yeah.
Because if you want to paint flesh, get ogres.
Yeah. Flesh and fur, depending on which side you go with.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I never fully got into them. Although I was kind of interested in them. Because you can do like a monster mash style thing with them, or you can just a whole bunch of fat dudes.
Yeah. Or monster truck.
I need to think
basically,
about
yeah.
it. I have one of the Ogre Maw tribe, the old Ogre Maw tribe
Star
battle
collecting?
tomes.
Oh, battle tomes. Okay.
The Star collecting, I think I sold the holder, but and it wasn't a Star collecting. It came in with the Bone Reaper. It was like a 2-player box, but but it has mostly all that stuff.
Okay.
But it has like all the painting recipes for like Ogre Maw tribes, like the fur and the flesh and different flesh tones and things like that.
That's pretty good.
I might give it to him. I need to ask him about that tonight if he's still over there when we get done. Yeah, Ogre Maw tribes. They're an interesting. They have a lot of interesting rules that I like in there. So I'm
Like
glad to see he gets into it.
Like the content producer Haywo says, ABC always be charging.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Get into battles.
Let's go, fat dudes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So our second is from another fellow podcast, another friend of the show and friend of us, Jason Holder from Whiskey and Wrestling. This is in reference to our latest episode, or rather our last episode, on how to get friends into horror movies. And his initial was feedback, trauma.
Yeah.
Brady, this was in one of our collected chats, and Brady answered back, as beginner horror, yep, based on the overtop camp of it. Brady, I will read. You have to definitely know the person, how they react. These movies could backfire badly.
Yeah.
So let me say, I will co-sign on that. I think there's a lot of stuff, and honestly, strangely enough, for kids, like the old Toxic Avenger, like cartoon
Crusaders.
show, Toxic Crusaders,
Right.
And
I have a
yes, yes, you
let
do.
me tell my trauma story. I used to
Trauma.
I used to watch Toxic Crusaders, and I had several of the toys. The toys were very gross, and it was funny to me.
Right.
So one day we were in the video store, and there was a Toxic Avenger movie, and I was like, "Hey, I like the Toxic Avenger. Rent this for me, mother." And this is back in the day when when there was one TV in the house, and you watched. So we watched it, and it is like Toxic Avenger 3 or 4, where he fights Satan. So that was very fun and not awkward at all. When I have to watch,
he's fighting Satan, so he
when
clearly
I have to watch this with and we were like, this is not the Toxic Crusaders at all. So I know for a fact that you have to be very careful with the audience, and you have to know them and know that they will be okay with this type of movie. I think it could be good to get people into like these campy over the top horror movies. Definitely.
I think like there's a select few, but like it's a good thing, Brady, that y'all didn't watch the first one.
Yeah, because
a kid gets their head run over by a car.
Yeah.
In many cuts, in order to get that into theaters, they had to remove that scene.
Right.
Or they had to, rather, it's not they had to remove the scene, they had to cut that, like you only had the sound effect, which honestly, to me, makes it worse because now I'm creating it in my head, and that's just going to be 10 times worse.
I think Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is fine.
Yeah. If you want to see a super young George Clooney.
Yeah.
I think that not that it's a horror. I don't consider it a horror movie. It's got horror elements. Nukem High, Class of Nukem High is fine for the most part.
For Class of Nukem High 1 and 2, I will say this, and I'll say this for Trauma in general. If they don't like anything gross, stay fucking clear.
Yeah.
Because there is gross out everywhere. Again, the zenith or nadir, depending on the angle for it, would be Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead.
Yeah. Rabid Grannies.
Oh my god, Sergeant Kabuki Man. That one's not horror.
I think Sergeant Kabuki Man's a fine movie, but it's definitely not a horror.
They reused that car flipping spot in like 20 movies.
Yeah, they did.
Like we talk about Roger Corman, like
Lloyd Kaufman,
Roger Corman, like doing a lot of stuff to keep the costs down.
Yeah.
Lloyd Kaufman is the East Coast version of that.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Lloyd Kaufman.
I thought you were correcting me on that.
No, I was not.
I know who Lloyd Kaufman is.
I was not. Well, me too. That's why I was saying Lloyd Kaufman.
That's it. I'm shooting.
How many more times are we going to say Lloyd
Bang.
Kaufman?
I've shot Jody. He has bullet. He has bullet now.
I guess that's all the feedback, huh, Jay?
Is that all the feedback?
It better be at this point. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being passengers on the Omnibus. If you would like to leave feedback yourself on this or any of our previous episodes, or of any of our future episodes, if you're a psychic as well, travelersontheomnibus at gmail.com. Again, that is travelersontheomnibus, 1 L in travelers, at gmail.com. Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to say where they can. Okay, my bad. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I don't know any of this part, so you have to do it.
I have to do it, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been enjoying what you're hearing tonight or in previous episodes, and you'd like to share that with friends who you think would dig it, but don't listen to podcasts on the things that you listen to podcasts on, we're available on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music through our YouTube channel, Travelers on the Omnibus, and iHeartRadio.
Speaking of Spotify, you can message us directly, sort of.
Yes, you can use comments on all of our episodes and polls on all our episodes. How's about that? I'm shooting Jody again. Now he has 2 bullet.
Sweet.
He has 2 bullet now.
I think that leads us into our main topic. Tonight's main topic is going to be on TV shows that ended too soon. This is basically going to be an outlet for us to gripe about shows that we liked being canceled before their time. Sometimes we're lucky and we get a show like, Breaking Bad or The Sopranos that ends when it's supposed to. But sometimes you get into a show and either after 1 season, 2 seasons, sometimes 5 or 6 seasons, but the story still isn't done, they cancel it. Or they say that we're not going, or in some cases they cancel it and then they have to wrap it up in really hurry, in a big hurry.
It ends sloppily.
Yeah, and it ends a little sloppily. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Does anybody have one that they want to start with?
Yes, I want to start with the Nathan Fillion classic, Castle. So Nathan Fillion, he was in another TV show. I can't remember the name of it. I might
Yeah, it
come
slips
up.
my mind.
Might come up to us later. But yes, Castle was a police procedural. The concept of it being that Nathan Fillion played Richard Castle, a author similar like James Patterson, or people who do cop dramas. And he was having a writer's block, and then he meets Stana character. And I can't remember her name to save my life, but
I know about Castle, but I've never watched it.
And so it becomes a police.
Kate Beckett.
Kate Beckett, thank you. I think, I used to always remember that because he was a writer and her last name is Beckett and Thomas A. Beckett. But anyway, moving forward from that, it was a very good police procedural, and I really loved the relationship, not just between the two of their characters, but between everybody on the crew, on the cast rather. I think they did a really good job of creating people that I like the mysteries that they're doing, but I really like that these people are the ones solving the mysteries. And I think they did a really good job with it. It was going to, I believe it was in season 7. They wrapped it up, and then behind the scenes stuff, which we're not 100% clear on today. Stana Katic, and I think one other actress also quit the show, and some had already signed up to do the next season. They were like, well, we're just gonna end it here. And so the ending was kind of a cliffhanger, and to this day it has still not been resolved in any kind of TV movie or Netflix special or the such.
Yeah.
But
Had
Castle
8 seasons.
It had 8 seasons?
8 seasons.
Okay, so it would have been a 9th season, and they killed it there. So, but I thought it was a tremendous show.
I heard good things about it. I just never watched. I don't like procedural, so it didn't really appeal.
It aired on Mondays on ABC, so it was a flip back and forth with me between Monday Night Raw and that. So it was good, and I enjoyed it.
Okay. That's a good one.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Real fast. So I want to say this was 2019 when this show came out on Netflix. It's called The Order.
Okay.
Have y'all heard of it?
No.
Right.
This one does not sound familiar.
So it's basically think of the trope of like werewolves fighting some other type of like magical entity or something like that. This one kid, he gets enrolled into college, but this college has a secret organization of magicians that is constantly fighting other school magicians and everything. That also has werewolves in the mix, and he is somehow part of both the Magician Society and the Werewolves Society, and so he's trying to like balance the two while also trying to overcome whatever evil of the week and whatnot. It ended after it got canceled after 2 seasons, and it left off on a very like weird cliffhanger where multiple characters were doing their own kind of things. Like, it also ended off with one of the main characters dying, and the other guy like finding routes as to how to bring her soul back from hell and everything. And so a lot of people didn't like it, but I enjoyed it because of it's not really good, but it's just good enough to keep me entrapped a little bit. But then it got canceled after 2 seasons because of low viewership and whatnot.
And what was this on?
It was on Netflix.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Had 20 episodes.
Netflix is really bad about if a show doesn't get all the views in the world in the first season, then it's just like, well, fuck it, we'll cancel it. They don't ever let a show can't stumble anymore, especially with Netflix.
Jupiter's Legacy.
Yeah,
that's my favorite go-to example for that, because the show was out for like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're like, we're not making a second season. I was like, really? Like, you're not going to give it like a couple of months at least before you just make the announcement? You don't have to make an announcement.
Yeah, there was just a Jeff Goldblum show where there were like Greek gods in like real world that got canceled because it just like because not everybody who has a Netflix subscription watched it. Like basically, if something doesn't do Stranger Things numbers, they're just like, well, this is a failure and we can't let this oftentimes forgetting that a lot of like the greatest shows ever, like they stumbled in the first, sometimes 2 or 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I want to talk. Basically, this is the reason. This show is the reason that I came up with this idea, because I wanted to talk about this particular show, because I feel like I'm the only person who's ever even heard of this show. This is a show that was on the Sci-Fi Channel called Alphas. Alphas.
That
is,
David Strathairn in it.
yeah. Basically, it is real life X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
It is a group of people who have what was seen once, what most people have seen as some kind of like disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy basically figured out like, no, these are like superpowers that these people basically have. Like one guy, he at first he thought he had like anxiety troubles, but what it is he can control the flow of adrenaline and make himself stronger if he needs to be. One lady can like release pheromones that when she tells somebody to do something, they do it. What was the other one? One guy has like hyper acute balance and aim and like dexterity. And they fight bad guys. There's like other people, like they fought one villain. One of the coolest ideas for a power is that human beings all have a blind spot to where they can't, like once you get to a certain point standing, like you can't see them anymore. And there was a person who could always figure out how to be in your, their power was to always figure out how to be in your blind spot. So they were effectively invisible, and like them having to fight that was very interesting. There's like the main like bad guy is like someone, and this is of course none of this is true, but like it's a guy, he uses 100% of his brain power, so he's like super smart, but he's also evil. It went for 2 seasons, and the second season ended in a huge cliffhanger, where things would have massively changed in the next season, and they canceled it, so we'll never ever fucking know what the fuck happened, and it's very annoying because I really liked the show. It even had there was a couple episodes where Summer Glau was in it. I can't remember what she was an inventor. She was basically like Forge from the X-Men. She could like invent things, if I'm not mistaken. Or that was her son. She had a power and her son had a power, and I can't remember exactly. It's been forever. And of course, like this is not streaming anywhere, so like you can't fucking watch this show anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a very good show. It was very interesting. The way that they kept coming up with like these people with powers were very interesting, and they canceled it because sci-fi also likes to cancel things because it's not making all the money. So,
and there's another show that's similar as far as like the plot or the main story, and it's like Heroes. Heroes also got canceled early, and Heroes got canceled early for a different reason. Heroes, the first season was really good. That's how
what I heard. Yeah.
First season was really good. The second season suffered from writer's strike, which happened to destroy a lot of TV shows that killed off Frisky Dingo as well as a few other animated shows. But Heroes is also like ordinary people, and basically like their abilities awaken to become supernatural. And then the writer strike happened like mid season 2. And so they wrapped season 2 up early, and kind of like it just cut off to where it felt rushed. And then they basically like jumped the shark to try and get peak interest again.
Yeah. And
because of the writer strike happening, and because interest had waned, they took a lot of like wild swings, and it didn't work. And so the show ended poorly.
Yeah.
And then got canceled, but not for the typical reasons that a show gets canceled.
Yeah, that's one that I never went back to because I'd heard everybody say like the first season is phenomenal, and then like the next every season after that just about was like, oh, this is bad. Like,
right. It's more of a it petered out than it ended too soon because of like real life things happening. COVID.
We have studio audience, and they made a suggestion.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Soon.
Yeah. Give us a second.
It'd be really funny if we just never talk about that.
Yeah, let's
particular one.
leave that one out.
We could do that to spite him.
So yeah, COVID actually killed a lot of shows too. When COVID happened, I can't remember, but there's definitely like a few shows that ended way too soon because COVID canceled a lot of things.
Yeah. Before Netflix was the big canceller of shows, another channel was a canceller of shows, and that is HBO. HBO was really bad about let's sink all of this money into this show, and then we're gonna cancel it for one reason or another. There's some really obvious ones that I definitely want to get to, but I'm trying to pull out some of like the lesser known shows in this one. But for me, one of them, a big one is Carnival. Carnival was a great show. It went 2 seasons. It was set in like the 1930s Dust Bowl, middle of America era with this traveling carnival. And there is like this also greater battle between good and evil. And there's this whole mythology that's connected with it that the guy who created the show like came up with. It's very interesting. But this guy falls in with the carnival, and he has like these healing powers. And he finds out that there are other people in the carnival that have healing powers, and the head of the carnival is also connected in this whole thing. And then there's what's his name? Played the lead guard in Shawshank, Mr. Krabs.
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown plays a preacher who is evil. And he does a really good job. Like he's the best part, really. But like it's a really good show, really good show.
For our older passengers, he was also the Kurgan from Highlander.
Yeah.
He was. There was a show that I watched when I was a teenager that I really enjoyed a lot. It was a kid's show, but it was like borderline, kind of like young adult. And this is before Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it's called Erie, Indiana.
Oh yeah, I watched Erie, Indiana.
Erie, Indiana. The first season's phenomenal, right? And it was one of those shows where initially it was slotted in prime time, and after the first season, the show got canceled because the numbers weren't where they wanted it to be, because it really wasn't meant to be a primetime show.
Yeah.
And
when I watched it, it was like a Saturday morning thing.
Right. Well, they brought it back. They brought it back as a Saturday morning show. And they were just doing it in reruns. And much like when people don't remember that The Simpsons was suspended, not canceled, but like there was a time like around season 5 or 6 where they took it off the air for Sundays for a couple of months because it wasn't doing the numbers at the time they wanted it to do. They took Erie, Indiana off TV, and then they put it back on Saturday mornings, and it was the highest rated show. So they went back and they decided to dip back into the well and start a second season. And 2 years is a long time for kids, right? Like kid actors.
Yeah.
Like when you're like 10, 11, and now you're 13, 14. So the kids looked way fucking older, and the show wasn't nearly as good. But that one, I think, ended too soon as well.
That one I wasn't familiar with it ending. I just remember it being on TV,
right?
It was like, oh, Goosebumps is a thing, and now it's Erie, Indiana. Okay,
right.
But yeah, that I remember liking that show. There was an episode where the kids got up early because Erie, Indiana didn't do daylight savings time, but they wanted to do daylight savings time because it let them, sleep, get an extra hour of sleep. So they did it, and they got up, and then weird things happened in that extra hour. That still to this day that episode sticks with me because it was so weird.
There was the pilot episode was he had just moved to Erie, Indiana, and his neighbors like dressed up like the 50s. And the neighbors, the lady neighbor was like, the mom, and she had like 2 twins that were like around 12 or whatever. And they were perpetually stuck in Leave It to Beaver syndrome. And then they sneak into the house because weird shit happens, and they find that the mom's been keeping the kids in Tupperware containers to keep them young.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And they break the seal.
Tupperware chambers.
They break the seal, and in the morning, there's like 2 40-year-old dudes who look the same, and the mom is like, we don't know what happened to the mom.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that episode now. Erie, Indiana was fucking weird.
It was a Twilight Zone for kids.
Yeah.
That's really what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, to be honest, it was a little bit better than the Goosebumps show.
The first season. Anyway.
I'm not in the camp of either, but that could start some fights.
Yeah, good.
Like Erie, Indiana.
It had,
versus Goosebumps.
well, I think a lot of it is that the Goosebumps show, like, it was just using premises from the books, whereas Erie, Indiana was doing some really weird shit that didn't come from anywhere else.
I thought Are You Afraid of the Dark was better than Goosebumps too.
A lot of people that is a lot of people think that.
But Are You Afraid of the Dark was Canadian, so they're not going to be as mad dog about it.
Does anybody else have one?
If you throw the special powder they threw in Are You Afraid of the Dark into the fire was coffee creamer.
Oh, okay.
So after they announced that the order is canceled, I found me another show.
Okay. Yeah.
Simply called The Magicians.
That was a sci-fi show.
I very much enjoyed
Sci-fi
it.
is also really bad about.
Sci-fi is the worst, honestly, because I've got another one, but I want him to talk about The Magicians.
And it was going good. It was going strong, and COVID. COVID is the big reason why it got canceled. Like all productions got shut down, and once everything started like letting up, none of the cast wanted to come back to it.
Seems about right.
So, but I very much enjoyed The Magicians.
I've heard good things about it.
I watched that show at the start because one of the actresses, Olivia Taylor-Dudley, was part of the 5 Second Films crew from YouTube, and that she actually got like into the mainstream through that one. I'll talk about Defiance for a little bit. It was this unique idea of a TV show that also would have a video game run with it, and the two things would run concurrently with one another. I thought it was an interesting idea. It did not pan out, but I enjoyed the series. Defiance takes place in a future where aliens came to Earth, and
I remember this show.
The intermingling of people who already live on Earth with this advanced civilization, and eventually led to a war. That war was stopped on Defiance Day when the Defiant few said, "We can share this planet. We can make this work." It went 3 seasons. The 3rd season took a very extreme tilt, and I kind of enjoyed that. And I wanted to see where this was going, and Sci-Fi was like, "Well, we've run out of your money, and so you're gone now."
I liked that show. The only reason like I didn't continue to watch that show is because it started like the same week that the first season of Game of Thrones ended.
That hurt it.
And it couldn't really, like, going from a show that spent like so much fucking money making all of these sets, and like it looked so like cheap and chintzy to me, and that's just because it was sci-fi and they just didn't have as much money, and I couldn't get over that. But what I watched was interesting. I just couldn't get over that particular part of
one of the lead actresses, Stephanie Leonidas, I'll say this for that, the makeup work in that show was fantastic, because you look at her out of character, and then you look at her in character, and it's two totally different people. Yeah. Like that is one of the best makeup crews I think I ever saw in television.
I want to talk about Fox for a minute because talk about Sci-Fi being really bad about canceling shows. Before Sci-Fi existed, or right about the same time, Sci-Fi, like Fox was fucking awful about canceling TV shows, especially sci-fi TV shows and horror-themed TV shows. There was one in the 80s called Werewolf, the TV series.
Okay.
It really only needed 2 seasons. It got 1. They built it was built up to I can't really go into the plot of it because it will spoil the show for you.
Yeah.
But it's really good. The guy is looking for his sire, basically. He's looking for who made him a werewolf, and the show is all about him tracking that guy down.
Oh, okay.
And so it's all like linear. The storyline is completely linear. It was really cool show for the time period. Also, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with Bruce Campbell, was a really awesome cowboy show.
Heard about that one.
Sci-fi cowboy show.
Yeah, sci-fi cowboy show. Fantastic.
There was another Fox show. It was sci-fi. It was what's his name? But it was like it was a world where androids were a thing, and this guy who hates androids get paired up with an android.
Yeah,
and it was the what's his name? He's in The Boys. Jesus, I'm terrible with names today. He was in Dread. He was Bones.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. Jesus Christ, why can't I remember these people? But yeah, I never watched it. But it was one of those.
I think unfortunately other people didn't watch
Fox is really well. I just didn't have access. Like I only had satellite, and you couldn't. But like it was hard to get Fox at that time. But Fox was really bad about, especially with sci-fi shows, they would play things out of order, and they would constantly move the time slots, and just make it to where it was impossible for people to really watch it.
There's another show that's like that.
There is another show.
I can't remember the name of it.
I can't think of it.
Speaking of sci-fi, let's talk about sci-fi sitcoms. Let's talk about Alf.
Okay.
And how
Alf, okay.
and how like if you're of a certain age, you were traumatized by the end of Alf.
Yeah. Luckily I wasn't around to watch it when it actually came out. I was just able to watch reruns. So
Alf
I didn't
did
have
4
to deal with that.
seasons, and at the end of season 4, Alf, this little alien, effectively Muppet, but not from the Muppets, Muppet from the planet Melmac, contacted his people, and they were coming to bring him home. And then he's meeting them. It's a sad thing. And then, oh God, the FBI's here, and they captured him. What's going to happen? Canceled. What?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it ends with him like surrounded by Men in Black, basically.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck are they going to do to him?
And the X-Files was still like 3 years away.
Yeah.
They made a cartoon version of Alf before it got canceled.
Yeah.
And then it got canceled.
Which were his adventures on the planet Melmac before Melmac
where he
blew
ate
up.
cats.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another show, lesser known, that I think I was the only person to ever watch this, and this is called Awake. This is starring Jason Isaacs.
I think I know what you're talking about.
This is he's a cop, and he gets into a car crash with his son and his wife, and one day he will wake up and his son will be dead and his wife will be alive, and then the next day he will wake up and his son will be alive and his wife will be dead. So he's going back and forth, and he has like 2 different therapists where he's dealing with this, and things wildly converge, but he also has it's kind of procedural, which I probably would have eventually like gotten annoyed with, but he also has 2 different cases, and oftentimes things that he talks about in one thing will help him solve the other case. And it was just a really, really interesting premise of a show as to, this guy just every other day he has this like wildly different life, like like with his wife's dead, like he's trying to like get over it and kind of like meet somebody else or something like that, and so it's like it was a really, really interesting show, and Jason Isaacs was really, really good. Like he plays a hard-nosed cop like really, really well, which is surprising because he mostly just plays like evil bastards. But yeah, it was like 1 season and it got canceled.
I like it when like the villain actors get a chance to like actually be like a
Mm-hmm.
good guy, like Ben Mendelsohn when he got to play like the good I can't remember his name from from Captain Marvel.
Yeah. He was the Skrull.
With the Skrull, and it just like, I'm just trying to be a cool dude, and it's like that's cool.
Yeah.
Like same thing with Jason.
Well, that one was
I
good.
respect Jason Isaacs. He's actually one of my favorite parts of Event Horizon.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's the guy who's trying to like translate the Latin in there and like
Right.
and
Yeah.
all the stuff that comes from
There's
that.
another Fox show that got canceled too soon, Alien Nation.
I've
I don't
heard
know
of
if you ever
one,
watched
yeah.
that, but that was a really solid show. It's actually better, in my personal opinion, than the movie that was based off of a 1988 sci-fi movie that did pretty well in the theaters. But the TV show was really great. Imagine, Ethan. Imagine
All right.
aliens show up, right?
Okay.
Aliens show up. A whole bunch of alien ships show up. Now, these aliens are not—they're not bad aliens. They're actually all slave aliens that they took over the ships and like showed up on Earth, and they just want to be like friendly aliens and hang out with everybody.
Okay.
5 years later, they're integrated into society mostly.
All right.
So they're part of your everyday
Coexistence.
yeah, coexistence for the most part.
Okay.
And the show will hit on themes of like, prejudice, of course, and you have an outlet for that. So because it's like, oh, well, these are actual aliens. So just like Gene Roddenberry did in the Star Trek, original Star Trek, you can actually have a lot of social commentary about what's going on by using these as like an example without like ruffling too many feathers. And they did there was really good stuff. That was like one of the aliens was a cop, so it was like sort of like a police procedural sometimes.
Yeah.
But the alien cop's son got into in a gang of other aliens that were like human haters, right? So there's like a parallel thing that's happening between the different. I really enjoyed that show a lot, and it only had like one season.
Yeah. That was one I knew about that and the movie, but I never watched. I just never. It was in my radar as to knowing that it existed, but I just never watched it.
So I want to talk about a now classic science fiction series that was cut way short before its time, and that is Star Trek, the original season or the original series.
Yeah.
Yeah. And went 3 years and then got just kind of cut out and then was done. They were thinking they were going to get more. And thank God for syndication. If you are a Star Trek fan, which I do count myself amongst that,
right?
Syndication really and we can talk a little bit about this because there's another series that also like eventually restarted and is still going now. But syndication and alternate ways of seeing things is a very good way for getting shows that either ran their course or got cut too soon. Think of Star Trek, the original Star Trek. Like because of syndication, it stayed at where people had access to it, where people could continue to watch it. And eventually, it picked its fandom, or rather, it got its fandom.
Also, a big historical note in that happening is because the show got, and this is like the only time I advocate for like things ending too soon. People were so passionate about that TV show that when they watched it in syndication, that those people that were involved in the first ever like real sci-fi con, that they actually got some of the actors, like this 1975 or 1976, where they got the actual actors from the show, minus somebody. I can't remember who it was. Jay might remember. I don't know if you've seen this documentary about how
it was either James Doohan, because they got the big three. They got DeForest Kelly,
Leonard
Nimoy, and William Shatner.
Right.
I think they got. It might have. Let me backtrack a little bit.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was Scotty. I'm not 100% sure it was Scotty.
Right. As I know, the guy who played Chekhov,
Walter Koenig.
Walter Koenig. He's like, I can't believe this is happening, because it was like literally like 1,000 people showed up to a thing that only 50 people they thought 50 people were going to show up for, and that interest. Like being shown to the public, people craving Star Trek, also led to them like later on, like doing the movie and things like that. So it wasn't just the TV show being syndication, but that was a huge factor. Syndication is a huge factor in drumming up interest in something.
The original Star Trek is an interesting one, because most people who know about Star Trek but aren't like Star Trek like mega fans. Will think like, oh yeah, the original Star Trek, it went for like 15 seasons. Like there's no way it got canceled or anything, and it only went for such a short time, which is pretty amazing, to be honest.
3 seasons, and when it was in syndication, most of the time they showed like the same 20 episodes. The seminal episodes that everyone can remember and quote for the most part. I could tell you all 20, but we're not going to go into that right now.
But you have Star Trek there. You also have Family Guy. Family Guy had a run on Fox, and then it ended, and then it was picked up by Comedy Central, and from the groundswell of that, it got moving on again. Most recently, Suits, which Suits had a complete run. I'm not saying that one ended
Right.
early.
Right.
But because of its streaming, I believe, on both Netflix and on, I want to say, Peacock, it found
Yes.
a new audience. And I will say this, before binging, that is a very bingeable show.
USA was very good at making those because they also had White Collar, Burn Notice,
Royal Pains.
Royal Pains.
Royal Pain. They had a lot of
Yeah.
those shows that you could just kind of turn your brain off and not pay too much attention to.
Background.
Or if you did, you were validated.
Yeah,
with
right,
some,
for
with
sure.
some solid story. Like it works both ways.
solid.
It works both ways.
They weren't bad. They weren't bad shows. They just weren't. I don't want to I don't want to be too negative, but like they just
Right.
weren't. They were shows that you could watch or you could just kind of have on, and
Like background noise.
you didn't you held the
Right.
characters, but you didn't hold like most of the time whenever we would watch those shows. I couldn't tell you shit that happened in the show. I just remember, I liked that.
I'll tell you
that
what-
that was how
Right.
those shows were.
One more real quick that happened too, and it wasn't terrible the first time it happened, which was also just like Family Guy. Futurama got canceled on Fox, went to Comedy Central
Yeah.
because of the interest in all the reruns getting all high numbers.
Futurama had like 6 finales.
Right. Fox.
No, has 6
Yeah, has
finales.
6
That
finales.
number might change.
Yeah, they brought it back, and man, it was not great.
When they brought it back the first time, it was good.
Yes.
When they put it back on Fox and they started making new episodes for that season's good.
Did they put it on Fox or was that Comedy Central?
No. So it was on Fox. It got canceled, and then there was a groundswell, and they had these movies, which were basically just like
Oh yeah, that's right.
They were
That's what I
basically
remember.
like long,
Right.
6-part episodes that followed one single thing. But then it went on to then after it was like 4 movies, and then after those movies it was on Comedy Central, and then it went on Comedy Central until it got to its finale there.
Right.
I think it made it to like 8 seasons from there, like 6 to 8, maybe 9. I
I
think
want
it
to
got
say 9 because
it got 3 or 4 seasons.
Because when Hulu picked up Futurama, that was its 10th season.
Yeah. And then Hulu started it up again because we can't
Can't let things die.
They
can't let
got to
things
make
in.
money. They got to make money.
Even though
We can't let an orange rind go unjuiced.
yes, this is true. But yeah, that was one that I would argue after. I know a lot of people don't like the Comedy Central stuff, but I like them for the most part.
So I want to talk about a Joss Whedon series
Okay.
that had a chance, and really the network that had it kind of just fumbled it, and that's Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angel.
And Angel went 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I think it did a very good job of distancing itself from Buffy in the fact that it was a more mature show.
It was
dealing
It
with
was.
we were no longer dealing with high school and early college stuff. We're dealing with actual adult problems in the
Right.
show, set against the backdrop against hell is real and shit is bad.
Right.
And the 4th season was its last. It was a fascinating season, and the end was a cliffhanger
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
with all hell breaking loose.
Oh man. I hate when that happens.
Yes, I believe it was continued in comic book form for a while. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
I
still
think
being
so.
done that way as of right now, but it was. But for a television show, yeah, they just ended. And fortunately for Joss Whedon, because at this moment I cannot think of any TV
Me
series
neither.
he had
Me neither.
that was stopped that early.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, especially anything that had 13 episodes. Quick, Ethan,
Yo,
I need to ask you a question.
go for it.
How many networks do you think Mystery Science Theater 3000 got canceled on?
I don't know the answer. However, I'm going to say all of them.
You're pretty close.
Like 4. I don't
At
know.
one point, if I can remember correctly, they were on public access, which you can't get canceled from that. But after that, the A&E network, Comedy Central, Sci-Fi Channel, and streaming now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's 1 or 2 that I'm forgetting because I think at one point they were on a bigger network for a short period of time. But yes.
Yeah.
And the short run Netflix thing. Something that really pisses me off real quick. So Joel, the guy who was mostly responsible for Joel Hodgson creating Mystery Science Theater 3000, did a Kickstarter to make new episodes for the show. on Kickstarter, got over $1 million to make new episodes, made the show, was trying to figure out what initially they were just going to put it on YouTube because, you know, they already had the money they weren't trying to make anything else out of it. And then Netflix said, hey, you've already made the show. Why don't you put it on Netflix? If it does well, we'll make more. They made something called The Gauntlet after that first season, which was just six episodes, and never heard from again.
Yep, that's about how it works. So I want to talk about one. This is probably something that people were thinking about. You know, as soon as they click on this show, they're probably thinking about this. It had like wonderful characters, a very interesting story. And then later on, it got canceled really before its time, I think. And then, you know, they ended up with it ended up with having a movie actually to kind of tie some things up, but didn't really tie a whole lot up. And that is Deadwood.
Yeah.
Deadwood is one of my favorite shows of all time, and it ended after 3 seasons. And
It also has people who speak Chinese.
And that's a goddamn tragedy. I can't think of any other.
I can't think of any other show
that happened. It's really amazing, and they did have the movie that came out, which really gave us a dip back into that world, and was really just made me. I liked it a lot. It just made me. It was still frustrating because it's like, fuck, we could have had more. And it's because like after the 3rd season, like. There was a lot of, I think there was like some contract negotiations that were some problems. And then the fucking set burns down and the set's an entire fucking town. And they were like, well, shit. And then they eventually were just like, and it went so long without us hearing anything. And they were like, well, they're just not going to do it anymore. And now the creator guy, he has like early onset dementia. So the movie is the last thing we're ever going to get in Deadwood.
I want to talk about another sci-fi show that just cut too short too soon.
Go ahead.
It was well ahead of its time. You know, only had really a handful of episodes comparably, and that's the classic Buck Rogers of the 25th century.
Yeah.
That show actually had 2 seasons. The first season's really good, and the second season kind of fell off.
Was
Because
Buck Rogers? Buck Rogers was after Star Wars, right?
so.
Yes.
See, to me, that falls into Star Wars exploitation because you have that, you have Battlestar Galactica.
Well, also you have to remember Buck Rogers was a serial series in the 30s.
Oh no, yeah, I know, but this was like a reimagining.
There
of that.
was a boom of sci-fi.
But then what did the serials of the 50s inspire? Star Wars.
Right. It's just a Mobius strip. But Battlestar Galactica literally came out like a year after Star Wars and was an actual fabulous show. The original Battlestar Galactica also got canceled well too soon, and then they tried to make it later again in 1980. Not the newer one.
Yeah.
Which was actually fabulous. But yeah.
I got one.
Okay.
It's another sci-fi classic that got cut too short.
It is. It involves a ship. Also.
A ship. Oh man, that's
specifically a ship.
Oh
man.
The ship is integrated into the plot.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. We're getting there.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It only ended after 1 season.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm following you.
A lot of like really good like audience reviews, but like cancellations and everything. I am talking about Netflix's 1899.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, of course. That seminal show.
Yes.
That I've never heard of before.
I've heard of it. But I
Kill the bit. Kill the bit.
I've heard of it, but when I heard it was getting canceled, I didn't bother watching it, which is what happens most of the time.
That's
with
the thing.
Netflix.
There's a lot of like good stuff that it gets put out, and then you don't hear anything else about it. And like 1899, it's people traveling on a steamboat from UK to US, and on the travels, a lot of like weird. I wouldn't say like eldritch horror things happen, but like some like weird shit starts happening. Like people start disappearing on the ship. Things are like there's like mirages like appearing out in the distance, but as you get closer, it becomes very realistic. And so there was a lot of good positive feedback from it, and it ended on a like really like twisted ending with no further explanation.
Yeah,
That's exactly. Oh,
those are the worst.
yeah, that actually happened with another show that they eventually continued on later, which was Doctor Who. Doctor Who was canceled for like fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
It was like series 8 was like what 85 or something. Not 20 years, but like
Well, it was
I'm about 15.
with the Seventh Doctor. It ended, and with Sylvester McCoy, and when his stuff ended, it kind of ended. And then they tried to bring it back. It was like a BBC America.
It was a co-production of BBC and Fox, which is why the pilot aired on Fox.
Yeah.
And that was Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor. It starts out with Sylvester McCoy. With all due respect to the series, they did some things right, did some things wrong. One thing they did right: show the regeneration.
Yeah. That pilot's really hard to find. I know when I was super big into Doctor Who, like you couldn't watch it anywhere.
I'm glad they paid Paul McGann the respect of having him part of the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, when he regenerated into
the War Doctor.
The War Doctor, that was pretty cool. Because I think he's kind of left behind.
Well, because he was literally attached in that to
one. It was
something that failed.
It was like a little bit longer than a full. It was longer than a full episode, but it wasn't quite a full like movie. I don't think
it was like a 2-part episode pilot kind of thing.
But even then, then it didn't go until like the 2000s was the next time.
Because as far as like numbered doctors, where it fit, Shooty got was 15th, right?
Yeah. And because they've fussed around with the numbering a little bit.
They like fuck it.
Because technically, the War Doctor was one, but he wasn't numbered.
But he's also like it was supposed to be Christopher Eccleston, but Eccleston didn't want to come back.
Yeah, Eccleston doesn't go back to things after he's done with them,
right?
Because he's weird. But yeah, that one got canceled and then brought back. So that's interesting. That's an interesting one. Let me see. Oh, one that I alluded to earlier was the show Rome. Rome was really good. It was about the basically Rome going from republic to empire. Julius Caesar is really important in the first season. Then the second season is about the rise of Augustus. But you're also following these soldiers who was Ray. The guy just died. Was it Stevenson? Is that right? Ray Stevenson. And then the other guy, I can't remember his name either, but he was in his most famous thing now is that he's in Grey's Anatomy.
That show won't end.
No, that's
for another episode.
That's for another episode.
That might be for a mirror episode of the show.
But,
who knows?
But yeah, it was followed all these like big historical characters, and then like halfway through making the second season, they found out, oh, we're canceling you, so they have to like speed run
They have to speed run Roman history.
like it's slow, like it literally like the first half of that second season is very slow, and then it starts moving so fucking fast.
It's from I Claudius to I Claude,
because we're getting to, and this is spoilers, but it's history, so you knew it was gonna fucking happen. But the first season ends with like Caesar's assassination,
sure, and
then the second season like goes very slowly, and then it kind of speed runs Augustus becoming emperor. So it like really like moves super fast with like the death of Cleopatra and Antony and all of these. So they really it was really it was still decent, but it wasn't as good as that first season. But yeah, that was definitely a tragedy, and it was because it was such an expensive show. Like you watch this, you see the sets on this show, and you're like, yeah, they paid so much money for this show.
It's odd is like when we talk about live action shows mostly, because most of the time when you talk about cartoons, especially in the 80s, cartoons didn't technically get canceled. They just didn't get picked up for another season.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Silverhawks. There's only one season of that show.
Well, most of those other shows, most of those older animated shows, they didn't do much in the way of serialization. It was all like you could literally watch any episode.
Right. It was all, I can't remember.
Every once in a while, it would be
Yeah.
a 2-part episode, but that was the only time you had to watch.
Because it
them
was
a
in
certain order.
syndication
Yeah.
and they never knew when it was going to
Yeah.
air and if it was going to air in sequential order. They did that for the first season, at least the first part of the first season of the Thundercats. A lot of that storytelling was linear.
Yeah, but I think they still showed that out of order, if I'm not mistaken.
They did when they started showing reruns of it, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of animated shows, another one that I think ended too soon, and it's only because I recently watched this that I even know about it, because I finally got around to watching like the whole season. That's Batman Beyond. Batman Beyond only went for like 2 seasons, which is really tragic because like it was a really good show. It had pretty interesting like villains that stood alone, and it was like the whole dynamic of young punk kid having to deal with an old Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Was very interesting, and it's very good that they finally got around to, in Justice League Unlimited, kind of tying everything in that world in a bow. But yeah, that one definitely. They could make more episodes of that, and nobody would be
Nobody
upset
would complain.
would complain about that. I think it was just because that one. I want to say that last season of Batman the animated series was on the whatever they called their WB channel.
It was the WB.
And then Batman Beyond started also on that channel,
Right.
And it's just not as many people were able to watch it, then.
Right.
So it just didn't have the staying power viewership wise, because just fewer people are watching it because it's on a channel that like not everybody has cable. I didn't have cable until I was damn near in high school.
Right. Everyone thought. Side note. Everyone thought in the early to mid '80s that Fox had cut out all of the privately owned stations that were left. WB's like, WG in Chicago.
Yeah.
We want that. So they took limited small markets before it became the CW.
Yeah.
So if you didn't have WGN, you didn't get WB.
Well, then you also, and eventually the WB and the UPN had to that combined into CW.
UPN, was even more limited than WB.
Oh yeah. I remember that time.
It did have Star Trek Voyager.
Yep,
and it also had strangely enough, Star Trek Enterprise. We're going dipping back into Star Trek now.
Yeah,
Enterprise went 4 seasons. It started picking up like, okay, we've established like Star Trek series. Almost to a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
It takes them 3 years, and that's when you start getting the really good stories.
Yeah.
Like
that's
next generation specifically is the Polestar consideration of that. But
that's
I think
if Next Generation were made today, like on a streaming service, it
wouldn't survive long enough. Unless Paramount made it. Paramount, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, maybe.
Paramount, to their credit, they kept with Discovery, and it kind of found its footing in the fandom.
Yeah,
and then you have Brave New Worlds, which is the spinoff from that. I like exploring Captain Pike because he's always been this, I don't want to say mythical figure, but there's always this figure that you have all this knowledge about.
They've only touched on him a couple of times,
but now you know about what his stuff is. I kind of dig that.
I like the actor that they got to
Anson
play.
Mount.
Anson Mount's a really good actor.
What about Picard though?
It got good in season 3.
Right.
Yeah. So that is also another 1-for-1.
Right.
But they also ditched everyone who produced seasons 1 and 2
because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
When you have the metaphor,
right.
It's easier to accept a metaphor than it is to scream at somebody, "Hey, the DEA is evil," or like, "Wait, what the fuck?"
Right?
It's like I was about to call them ISIS. INS is evil. It's like you could have like a alien culture, and you go to, and you could make that statement there, and whether you believe or disbelieve in it, you have the metaphor to where it's there, and it might plant a seed, and it might grow into something. But when you're screaming at somebody that fucking loud, the message gets lost in the static.
Yeah, when you cut the metaphor, why are you even using sci-fi as the channel?
I love the episode of
sci-fi or fantasy or western or anything.
I love the episode of TNG where like they beam up a couple of space hillbillies, I'll call them. Chief engineer is like, these guys are acting weird.
Oh, you mean the space meth heads?
Yeah.
No, they're not hillbillies. No, they're fucking like This is like Breaking Bad 24th century. So like these guys are like trying to go to their planet. They have a whole bunch of drugs with them. It's like we need to get these drugs. Our people are dying, and we need the drugs. And then
first they call it medicine.
Yeah, they call it medicine.
Yeah.
That's fair. But it's always drugs. But then it's illegal drugs.
Oh shit!
Illegal space drugs.
It's illegal space drugs. And what's weird about that episode? The guy who played Khan's possibly son, but definitely his first in command in Wrath of Khan is one of the people in that.
Okay.
They're the drug dealers.
Right.
He plays one of the drug dealers.
Right.
And then the guy who played Kirk's son in 2 and 3 is also there on the opposite side of things. Like he's one of the meth
Yeah, I
heads.
remember that.
okay.
That was
And it's like it's just that's a Star Trek fan.
they
in me
love
coming out.
inside nods like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got off because I think you were talking about Enterprise.
Oh, well,
Enterprise.
just real quick. The Enterprise, really to me, really started like kicking in the 4th season. It was really doing well, and they decided to make the finale a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode.
Okay.
And that will never sit well with me. I don't think it's even people who dislike the show.
Yeah.
Hate that it ended that way,
Right.
Because it wasn't allowed to go out on its feet. It went out on the backs of a more popular show in the first place, with like Riker and Troy coming back, and Jonathan Frakes is clearly like 7 to 8 years older. He doesn't look like he did. Like there was parts about that were just, oh my god. What
I will say they were smart though in starting to overlap these newer shows at the tail end of TNG, like Deep Space Nine and Voyager come in like a year or two before.
Deep Space Nine's first season happens, I believe, in the 6th season of TNG, because there was 2 seasons left of that, and then when the Next Generation cut off, that's when Voyager started.
Right.
So you had Deep Space Nine in syndication, so you had to look for your local station. It aired at like 11 o'clock, but
Mostly Fox.
it was always Fox. For us, it was WDSU out of
Right.
No, the one out of Pensacola. My bad, I can't remember. It was the CBS out of Pensacola. That I can never remember the name of it.
Most of the time it was on Fox.
Yeah. And then you had Voyager run on UPN until it ended, and then Star Trek Enterprise showed up next.
On Fox.
Yeah.
No, that was UPN.
Was
that was
it?
UPN, and then right after that, it merged with WB for CW.
Gotcha.
Okay.
A little TV knowledge.
Yeah, well, Star Trek team knowledge.
Yeah.
Mostly.
But really, when you're talking about science fiction series, we want to talk about science fiction series named after insects. And so, of course, I'm speaking about Bugs, which was a BBC show that ran from about 95 to 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Bugs was great. It's basically like
Never heard of this one.
no. I'm okay. I'm weird there in that regard. So they may have syndicated it over here in America like that, because what Bugs was like this group of it basically it's playing off of like the new technology. It has a more kind of like the X-Files always has, like, sometimes it's happy, but most of the times it's real fucking sad.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing's gonna go to shit in any minute. Bugs is like, no, we're gonna use this technology and we're gonna fight crime and we're gonna do good things. For they lasted 4 seasons, cut early. One of the main reasons why I knew about it, I was a big fan of Smallville in the first 3 seasons, and Alfred Goh and Miles Miller. This was a series for the BBC they actually wrote for. For people nowadays, for younger audience, Goh and Miller are also the writers behind Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So just want to give you a set. But yes, Bugs, a science fiction series cut before its time, and that never happened. Are we ready?
I was perfectly fine not ever talking about it.
I was gonna.
We should.
Okay.
No.
Now-
Before then, I want to get one in.
Okay, then we're not ready. Okay.
I want to talk about Hannibal.
Okay.
Hannibal is a retelling. It ends up being like a retelling of some of the parts of the in the books, like Red Dragon. It ends on Red Dragon, but it also takes place before, and it's Mads Mikkelsen is Hannibal Lecter being helped by, I can't remember the dude's name, this other investigator, and it ended before they really got to because they were playing on like at least 2 more seasons, because they were going to go into like Silence of the Lambs stuff. We were going to meet Clarice
Right.
Starling,
Right.
and yeah, it's a really good show, and it's a really dark show as well. Like, man,
As well, it should be. Like,
Yeah.
if it had been like a lighter tone, I think that.
Right.
But but Mads Mikkelsen was perfect casting.
yeah. If
for
you
that.
don't think Mads Mikkelsen is like a phenomenal actor, and after you watch this show, like, you cannot say that. Like, the dude kills it.
He's another guy that, like, when he played Jyn Erso's father,
Yeah.
the
yeah.
developer
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Rogue
yeah.
One. I
Yeah.
thought that was a great casting.
That was
too.
really
and
good casting.
it allowed him to show a range that was
Right.
way deeper. Like, I like it when I guess like I said earlier, I like it when villain actors can play heroes. I just like it when I see range from an actor.
Right,
And
of
so
course.
yeah, I mean that was just amazing.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I would say check out some of his foreign movies, because what oftentimes he will do is he will be in like a big budget like American movie, and then he will go back and do like lesser known stuff in his in Europe and his home country, but I can't remember his home country right now. But some of those are like really, really good. But yeah, like Hannibal, so fucking good. He's phenomenal in it. He's got great chemistry with the investigator guy. It's a dark, brutal show. Like, man, some of the kills are just tragic. But yeah, it's a haunting
What was
show.
the one? I remember this specifically because this was like some of my favorite like special effects in a television series. He had someone in glass,
Yeah,
and then they moved like it, and it was multiple panes of glass.
he
and
like-
they moved, and it was like
he like from the top, like he put like it's spoilers. It's an investigator that you follow, and then she ends up getting ambushed, and then they find her, and she is like not bisected, but like she is like completely down
like seven
from the
slices
top.
of
She
her.
is like
Yeah.
sliced and like in between panes of glass.
yeah.
Where she's like standing, and it's brutal.
You're saying this, and it reminds me of the one scene from, God, what the fuck was that movie called? Was it?
Like, that's not how he killed her. He killed her and then did that. Like, it's fucked
Yeah.
up.
Okay, I need Joe to help me. There was a movie, I want to say it was Jennifer Lopez, was it?
The Cell?
The Cell, yes. With the cow with the glass panes dropping on it and it being separated.
Yeah, I think it's like that, but with a human.
No, except like she was in the glass, and then the glass like a deck of cards kind of folds out, and each one of them is a section of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead
Gotcha.
of being cut by glass panes, she's in the glass. And
Yeah.
That's one of the like most amazing special effects shots I've ever seen for a television
Yeah,
series.
the other killers are like very interesting and brutal. We got an Eddie Izzard sighting in the show, so that's interesting. But yeah, that's a really good show. I guess we'll fucking talk about it now. I thought it would be funny if we never talked about it, but
I'm with you, Brady. We're finally going to talk about Earth 2, the Western in space that everybody wants to refer to when they talk about the only real sci-fi movie that has the themes of both a Western
TV.
and
Sorry.
a TV show. Well, being
No, not that one, not that one. We're going to
okay.
talk about the sci-fi Western that everybody is thinking of, and that's Westworld.
That is true. That show also got
It's a
canceled.
faux Western because the Western is not like it's a backdrop for
It got canceled way too soon.
on the
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
notions of identity and what is reality. And
Yeah.
it's
HBO
very
again.
good.
Yeah,
It's very good. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Firefly. Firefly.
Firefly, you say?
Oh, Firefly!
Oh
shit.
shit!
Dinosaurs in space.
It went one season. Dinotopia.
Yeah.
No, what was that? Terra Nova. That was the dinosaur show.
Both of them.
Yeah,
were,
where they go
yeah.
back 60 because the Earth is
yeah.
so fucked. Let's ship everyone back to 65 million BC. That'll fix everything.
Yeah. But
Don't
yeah,
forget San Andreas, where they opened
San
up
Andreas.
a pit to the past.
Yeah.
through the San Andreas fault line.
Right.
But yeah, Firefly. It is one of the most famous canceled shows of all time. It was really good. I really don't know there's not much to say. Like there was talk when when all of these streaming services were popping up that they were going to bring the show back, and I would have been vehemently against that because I don't want after the first season, sure, keep going and let's see these characters and everything. But like now, I don't want these people to have to go back to that.
If that was gonna be an option, the show had 14 episodes, and it ended without anything. It just ended. They had Serenity. I don't think Serenity bombed, did it?
It bombed.
Did it bomb?
It bombed. It bombed.
And it bombed in the worst way possible. It made enough money, but it was supposed to make all of the money because of all the hype of this is finishing up the Firefly story.
Yeah. And
I don't think they marketed Serenity. They
didn't do it. It fell prey to a lot of the things that we talked about. It got aired out of order. What was supposed to be the first episode was not shown right. They changed the first episode order. They played it out of order. They constantly changed around its time slot to where like it was like just set up for failure, really. But it was a good show. Like the chemistry between the entire cast was great. It was very quotable. It was before we got really tired of Joss Whedon dialogue, so we were still like, "Oh man, this is great," and I still think it's good.
Man.
It's just we're all tired of that.
Yeah, Firefly. Yeah,
of that quippiness now.
Serenity's budget was $39 million. Its box office was $40 million.
Ooh.
Yeah. It wasn't supposed to just make $1 million. It was
Yeah.
supposed to
It
make
made
a bagillion
$1 million.
dollars.
It's supposed to make way more than $1 million profit.
Yeah.
Which, if they spent anything on advertisement, which I know they didn't do,
They probably
they spent something on advertisement, so they
think-
definitely lost money.
But
Yeah.
I think it was a gross overestimation of how many people had watched the series
at the time.
it was the fact that there was that it was a small but extremely vocal.
Yeah.
I have anecdotal evidence of friends because we went to see Serenity, and I had friends who had not seen Firefly.
Sure.
and they enjoyed the movie.
The movie was a good
when
movie.
when I watched Serenity for the first time, I had never watched the
Firefly.
show.
Yeah.
I only watched it later on.
Well, social media also didn't exist.
Yeah.
There was no social media at the time.
There was actually a documentary about the whole Firefly.
I've seen the
I've seen the
documentary.
documentary. I cannot remember what it's called, but it was interesting.
For that, in a lot of ways, I feel that it's that generation's Star Trek.
In a way,
In fact, that it continued to something that
In a way. But
that
it's
the string holders would
like it's a
build.
very interesting world. Like it felt gritty and lived in. That was a really good, that was one of the better things about it.
Right.
In fact, like going back and watching Serenity, that's the one thing. Like it doesn't look as gritty and lived
It's a little
in.
shiny compared to.
And
know.
not good shiny, bad shiny.
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing of the show.
Yeah.
The show is good. It is not. I think it's been talked up a bit too much, but it is a
Probably, yeah.
good, solid
But
show.
like anytime I hear like, oh, the show, like short running shows that
Yeah.
will cut to Firefly is always
That's
mentioned.
one
Yeah.
of the biggest ones
Yeah.
that they
It is
always
always
talk
mentioned.
about.
And
They
one of the
always
good
talk
reasons
about it.
that it's not that it's more rewatchable than some of these other shows is because it doesn't really end on a cliffhanger because it was just because every episode was just kind of was very standalone.
non-linear.
Yeah. And saying that, even though like them playing it out of order did matter because that like the first like was it two-parter really like set the tone
Right.
and let you understand how things are with these people.
Also, there's only 14 episodes, so it doesn't take
Yeah.
long to watch
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh, we forgot to talk about the Joss Whedon cut too soon science fiction series Dollhouse. We had another one we could have thrown in there.
That's true.
yeah. I thought about throwing that one in here as to continue the bit, but I've never watched the show, so
I
don't
watched
know.
an episode of it, and I remember nothing.
There was
from
also another Joss Whedon show. He was involved in the Terminator, the Sarah
He was.
He was, yeah, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
it.
Again,
Yeah, say that 3 times.
don't know
fast.
anything about it. I'm just reading off.
I
of
watched a few
IMDb.
I watched
episodes.
one episode and I was like, "This is really good," and I never got back around.
Yeah,
to watching
I watched
the
a couple
rest of it.
episodes, and then it got canceled.
Yeah,
Again.
I
you
watched
know.
a couple episodes and I was like, "Oh, this is a good show," and I just never could find the time to.
Yeah.
I never.
It's hard to watch anything Terminator because Terminator 2 exists, and
Yeah.
that is a perfect fucking ending.
Yeah,
It's a
this is-
perfect
this is
movie,
true.
really.
But yeah, is there anything else that we want to talk about?
Firefly is really the quintessential like canceled too soon movie.
I got through most of mine, so yeah.
I got mine out of the way.
I've spoken my piece.
I've also spoken my piece.
This might make us go on too long, but I have a controversial one.
Oh,
okay. No,
Go for it.
Controversy. Let's end this.
Game of Thrones.
uh-huh.
Game of Thrones should have been 3 more seasons because they packed way too much in that last season.
The last 2 seasons, really.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons. Really.
I'll forgive them for the season before the last season.
I actually really like season 6 is one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah.
of
I
the
don't
show.
mind the pacing of season 7.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
I
The
think
pacing only gets a little off towards the end.
Yeah.
But the last season, I don't mind most of what happens. I've come around to not liking some things. But
Right.
for the most part, I don't like what happens. It's just that it happens so
Too
quickly.
quickly.
It's whiplash.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It looks
How
poorly.
like outside of the whole Daenerys angle, how are you gonna like build up a war against the undead for like 7 fucking 8 seasons? Mostly 7 though.
Yeah.
7 seasons. Build up like, oh, winter is coming. All the walkers are coming. Oh, we're gonna get fucked. We're gonna get fucked.
Yeah.
9 years later, 1.5 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
1.5 episodes of and you don't even see 90% of it.
I see. That's where to me the problem comes in. I did not mind that was 2 episodes, and I will tell you why. I feel the true like drama, the true interest there by the end
Was the build-up.
was the build up between the North and the South,
Right.
and not about the North and the way far north.
Sure.
Yeah, but the problem is that the White Walker thing was a ticking clock basically that's been through the entire since the first scene
So the first
of
scene,
the first episode.
the first scene, yes.
And to just have it and to just say like this is an all-consuming threat, and then we finish it in a very short amount of time, because luckily we have this MacGuffin that can defeat them in one stroke.
And that MacGuffin's name was Arya Stark.
Yeah, which a lot of people were pissed off that she was the one who killed him. I actually really liked.
I like that she was the one that killed him.
There,
Again, everything that happened, I like. Except I've turned around to where I think Bran being king is like really dumb and lazy.
I don't mind Bran being king. I mind how he became king.
Right.
The execution is what I have a problem
he's
with.
king because who has a better story is like
Bullshit.
one of the most asinine things
Yeah.
I've ever heard, and it's really sucking their own dicks, Benioff and Weiss.
Who said that theme only matters in 9th grade book reports? But whatever.
Yeah,
That's
but,
fine. That's fine.
That's my. I think like the pacing was bad. I don't mind what happened. It just
Right.
shouldn't
No,
have
I
happened
agree
as
with
quick
you.
as
I agree with
possible.
you 100% on that.
I think
Because
for
you have
me,
characters like whiplashing back and forth. It's,
I also and also acting highly inimical to their own like established intelligence.
Right.
Tyrion doesn't like Dinklage even said in like the fucking like behind the scenes interviews. It's like, so they lock us all in a crypt, and I know these things are dead and can raise the dead. Tyrion wouldn't. Hey, you're setting us up for failure here. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Varys is a complete moron and goes completely against like everything and he doesn't have that hook that they do in the books where there's another possible Aegon Targaryen
which I'm
son.
glad, because I think that's a really stupid plot line in the book.
But it forces him into like, okay, Daenerys is the only one, and then he immediately finds out someone else might be, and he immediately switches sides.
Yeah.
Someone he's been like pulling for this. Like, I thought that was a little out of there. I loved the kind of almost middle finger to the trope of like the chosen hero and all that. He doesn't defeat the king.
Right.
He doesn't stop the sacking of King's Landing.
Yeah.
And he kills what is the love of his life, maybe
Sort of.
Yeah.
And he has
the only thing he gets known for is a king killer. Like he gets branded with that, and he has to fuck off to the north again.
Yes.
Which I like that, because that's the whole point of Game of A Song of Ice and Fire is to supplant all of these fantasy tropes. You know,
I think my issue with Daenerys is that if, let's just say the show, and it did, ends the way that it ends, and it builds up to the way it builds up. If they would have known that's how they were going to do it before they got the green light from Disney, and it never happened, the showrunners, which is why that shit was rushed.
WB. Where you're talking about Benioff and Weiss trying to get a Star Wars series.
The problem is that HBO would have let them make, there would still be Game of Thrones seasons if they let us, but they saw dollar signs somewhere else, and they didn't want to keep doing this. And I don't blame you. I
got one more thing.
I'm sorry.
I've been trying to say this real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
You're fine. If they would have shown her turn to madness like a season prior, slowly, but at least show the turn to madness, because it really feels like a knee-jerk turn to madness. It really does.
Well, that's the problem, is everything in that season feels like a knee-jerk.
It's just like, it's a flip of the switch, and she's crazy.
They needed about 3 more seasons.
Or at least one. At least one.
They knew they'd run out of ideas. And they had a new avenue to put other ideas that don't fit into a Game of Thrones or a fantasy setting. They could do it in a science fiction, science fantasy setting. And I think, yes, the money is there. That is probably the major thing. But I think also that was a lifeline. Like, what are we going to do after this is done? Also, bear in mind, Game of Thrones won the Emmy for Outstanding Series in its last season. Take with that information as you will, and go with it wherever you
think that
are.
says more about the Emmys than it says about
again. Go wherever you want to go with that. Yeah,
because like until House of the Dragon came out, like the cultural zeitgeist of Game of Thrones like went to almost nothing.
It went to man. How bad was that last season?
Like
mostly.
Yeah, pissing people off to make them mad, that could be bad. Pissing people off to where they don't care anymore, that is the absolute worst.
Yeah. So, does anybody have anything else? I think that pretty much wraps it up.
I think
hopefully
that does.
You enjoyed hearing us gripe about shows that we enjoyed not finishing. You know, sometimes you get lucky and like a Firefly, it's only 1 season, but I think you can still watch it and enjoy it, and you're not super frustrated about it because it doesn't like end on a cliffhanger or anything like that. Then you have, Hannibal, which literally ends on a cliffhanger, like very, very literally. So and they're a little bit harder to come back to. But a lot of these I still have, and I go back and I'll rewatch Deadwood. I'll rewatch Carnival, Rome sometimes too. But yeah, hopefully hey, what's your favorite show that ended too soon that we didn't talk about? If we talked about it, fuck you, we don't want to hear from you. But
you know what? Cosign.
Double sign.
You got to give us something we didn't talk about.
I don't give a fuck no more. Fuck it. Did we mention Firefly?
Oh shit, we forgot to mention Firefly.
Shit, we had to add another 10 minutes.
I really wish we would have done that when we were going out. Like I've been Brady Day. It was like, oh shit, we forgot about Firefly.
That I would have been for that bit, but
I didn't want Austin to be sad.
Oh, he would have been sad. We would have talked about it.
He literally showed us a picture of Firefly. He would have been crestfallen.
Yeah, no, we know.
All right.
No, I just wanted to use the word crestfallen.
Let's wrap this shit up.
Let's wrap it up.
Because Ethan has to be somewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, Ethan, tell us somebody.
Whiskey and Wrestling, Jason Holder, Macra Hill. They drink an alcohol of the week. They talk about wrestling of the week. AEW is shit.
They drink an alcohol, and then you paused. And I really think you should have just ended there because that's the best promo of all time.
Ethan, again.
Fuck. Shit. Fearology, Jody to my right, right here. He talks about horror movies. Give him a listen to after he changes his Spotify password. Oh, you want me to go again? The completed podcast.
Jody has his mouth full, so you have to go again. Again!
The completed podcast, a Magic the Gathering centered podcast hosted by Christopher Vega, Brandon Scott Tanner, and Brandon Smith. They do magic stuff. Check them out.
Oh, man. I'll actually get some of those references if I ever listen to that show. Again!
Mackinac Gaming, Goshen, Mississippi.
nerd shit. Get it?
Again.
Do we have?
There's
Bearded
one
Drums,
more.
Bearded Drums. JT. He listens to our show weekly, and his friend
Your blood
Steven
pressure is
Nelson
like
the second.
200 over 5,000 right now.
They do drum stuff, music stuff. Listen to them.
Yeah. I think that's it. Again. No, there's nobody else. There's nobody else.
You! Oh no, it's Soldier Boy got in.
Jesus Christ. No, we got to cut this shit out. We're talking about Soldier Boy now. That motherfucker hasn't been referenced in 15 years.
Until today.
Jesus Christ.
Hooty hoo, motherfuckers.
That's somebody. I don't know.
I don't think that's Soldier Boy.
No, it's not. It's a low limit.
I was about
Oh,
to
it
say,
is
yeah,
No
that's
Limit
Master P.
Records.
That's Master P.
Next time, we'll talk about Soldier Boy and No Limit Records, only on the #1 rap podcast in the world, Travelers on the Omnibus.
Yeah, 4 white guys.
I quit.
You racist.
Jesus Christ. Shit. For Travelers on the Omnibus, I've been Brady Davis.
I've been Jody Kite.
I've been Ethan Skinner.
I have been James McCarthy. Hang on. Okay, we're there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually do need to go.
Bye, Ethan.
Carol,
Bye, Ethan.
have you ever been involved with a little person sexually? Stephen Bedelia. No, just kid stuff, you know. You know, all the kids would come over. We'd sit in a circle, play doctor, and that kind of thing. Couldn't have been more than 10 or 12, so that
getting
really
cut.
doesn't
You're
count.
gonna have to cut
Carol,
this. What the
you
fuck?
had a circle jerk with a bunch of little people? I would have loved to see that. Stephen Bedelia, you would like to see that. Carol, yes, I would. This was spoken by Matthew McConaughey and Kate Beckinsale in the movie Tiptoes.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, my God.